Pull up, grab the fuel nozzle, and get ready to fuel up on trends and strategies to grow your travel center business in this episode of The Truck Stops Here, brought to you by Natso. Now, here's your host, Amy Toner.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of The Truck Stops Here. I'm your host, Amy Toner, and I'm here with my co-host, Darren.
Hey, Amy, how are you?
Good. You are listening to Truck Stops Here, Natso's podcast. Natso is the National Trade Association for Truck Stops, and our mission is to advance the success of truck stops and travel centers. And this podcast is just one of the many ways that we do that. Today, it is our pleasure to welcome Michael Willkomm, owner and president of Racine Petro in Sturtevant, Wisconsin. Hi there.
Good morning, Amy.
Good morning. All right, let's start from the beginning. Can you just tell us about Racine Petro? How long has it been in existence? Where it is? Just give us like the elevator speech.
Okay, well, I'll start with our name. Once we remodeled, we're shifting away from Racine Petro because people really don't know anything where the Highlands is. So we shifted it to the Racine Petro in Wisconsin. Uh-huh. So the 2-minute elevator pitch is we've been a Petro franchisee since 2000, and we remodeled recently in the last year to expand the travel store, revamp, and add a bunch of food offerings, and we turned in a sorry, sad, old, dated Petro into an exciting new fun adventure here in Wisconsin.
Now, one of those remodeling was the restrooms, right? Darren was telling me about it. There was a map involved and drawing. It sounds like it was really innovative.
Yeah, I couldn't, poor Amy, I could not stop telling her all the exciting things. And she's like, okay, hang on. I've got to ask Michael some of these questions. So specifically, I just told her about the innovation of your restrooms. I just found that fascinating. If you could share that with the audience.
Of course. Okay, well, just kind of start out with an overview of what we did. I mean, we had about a 15,000 square foot main one building concept for a Petro. The travel store, the fuel islands, and the iron skillet, everything was in one main building. Of course, the shop was on the other end of the property on our 15 acres that we have. What we did here is we basically cut off half the building where the iron skillet was and added this new 2-story structure, and then added another 5,000 square foot to our travel store. So what started out as a roughly 15 to 17,000 square foot building turned into a 27,000 square foot building. So where we added the bathrooms was part of the addition. And one of the challenges what we had in the past with bathrooms is we had mainly male custodians. Now, thankfully, we have some of each. But what the challenge was with all the male custodians is when we had to clean the women's restroom, which every half hour, it was difficult because you're closing it and there was no alternative because there was just no way to do that. So what we did is what you see similar now in airports is when you walk into the women's restroom, first of all, there's no doors on anything, so nobody has to touch anything. And now you have the option to go right or go left, and either way, it's a mirror image. So you can turn right and walk in or go left. You go around a short wall, and it's the same stalls, sinks on one side as it is the other, which allows us to clean half of the restroom and not have to close down the entire restroom. So it was just a very simple idea that we completely stole from the Moons at their Iowa 80 location, and someone told me a long time ago, one of the greatest things about our industry is you can steal good ideas from anybody. And that's exactly what I've done, is steal all the great ideas from the great operators we have in our industry and tried to incorporate as many as I could into ours.
Awesome. Well, so, when Darren travels a lot to our members, and he always posts all his photos and from his trips for all the staff to see. And there was just so many cool things. I want to first talk about the Airstream. So it's a grill in the Airstream inside. Is that right?
Yes, it's inside the main building. If you think of our total building as something like a mall, and when you walk into the main entrance, our atrium is in the center of the building, and the atrium is 2 stories tall with it just completely open in the middle. We brought the Airstream in and we set it right there in the middle, and The reason that we chose an Airstream to use as our food counter is because the theme that we took on for this location was you're traveling to Wisconsin. You're out of the craziness of Chicago and Illinois, and you've made it. You've made it to the great state of Wisconsin, and things are opening up, and it's fun, and it's exciting, and you're going up to your grandpa's cabin. You're going up north, and you're going to go fishing and boating and hiking, and you're going to get to do all those fun things that people do in Wisconsin. And now you've just gotten over the border, and you've arrived. So it's a travel theme. So we ended up with, we found this Airstream. Our marketing director was searching frantically for one, and we found one in, I believe it was in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And when we talked to the guy, he's like, well, it's not quite finished. It's just the shell. And I'm like, perfect. Don't finish it. That's exactly what we want. Because we retrofitted it, put the lunch counter in it, cut it in half so the back end is open. But as you walk up to it from the front and the back, and as you approach and try and order, you look like you're walking up to a nice big silver Airstream.
It's so shiny. Do you get a lot of comments on it?
We do. It's one of the things that when you walk in the door, it's one of the first things you see. So it helps set the tone for what we're trying to create when you walk into the building. This is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, do you mind sharing just one other part about that, how you get food from the Airstream kitchen up to the bar area on the second floor?
Yeah, that's a fun thing that we figured out. I should say our maintenance guys. I just come up with the crazy ideas, and then we let our maintenance guys figure out how to do the details. So like I said, the Airstream is in the center of the building, in the atrium, in the open air space. And our bar is an upstairs bar. It has indoor, outdoor seating. So we have a rooftop patio. So the bar is on the second level. And when you walk in, there's also a Taco Bell and a O&H Danish bakery, as well as a Dunkin' Donut. Well, they have small seating areas for that. But for the Blue Badger is what we call our own branded food concept. The Blue Badger Bar and Grill. So the grill section in the kitchen is downstairs, but the bar section is upstairs with the outdoor patio. So we were trying to connect both of those concepts together. So one of the ways that we thought we could do that is when you order your food at the Airstream on the lower level, the staff invites you. You can wait here for it, or you can wait upstairs in the bar area or the lounge area. And when they go upstairs, then the food is placed in a basket, and we call it the food trolley. The food trolley then travels about 45 foot at a 45-degree angle, and it takes the food up to the bar area. So it's very visible. Everyone can see it. It also serves a very practical purpose. I mean, we do need to get the food from the kitchen up to the bar some way, shape, or form. And it was just a simple kind of a fun way to add something different. I remember as a kid, there was some restaurant. I don't even remember what state it was in, but you got your food by a train. You know, it was a track that kind of went around all the tables, and they put your hamburger in a bag, and the train would go around and stop at your table, and you grab your food off the train. Well, you know what? I don't know if the food was any good at all, but I just remember that was a fun time. And that's that is exactly what we're trying to create here. We want the experience to be memorable for more than just the taste of the food. We want it to be, that was a fun trip.
I told Michael, Amy, when I walked in, the store transforms you.
Yeah.
There's so many things you could spend hours talking, but it transforms you. And when you see the Airstream, you see the flowers, the trees, the decorations on the wall, and you see that trolley taking the food up, it transforms you almost like back to a kid. And that's the folks we were with. That's what we were talking about when we left Michael's store. Is it transformed us? It reminded us when we were kids, and it was just hard to explain. And that little trolley, we just couldn't get enough of that trolley. How fun that was!
Yeah, that's super fun.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
What about the bakery? I was joking that it was carb heaven. So much good stuff in there. How long have you had the bakery?
Well, Racine is famous for a few different things. We're the home of Johnson Wax. We're home of the Racine Raiders semi-pro football team. And we are home of O&H Danish Kringle.
Okay.
And the Danish Kringle and the O&H, the Olesen family that has had it for 3 generations now. It's a Danish pastry that takes 3 days to make. The process, and I don't completely understand why, but when you roll this dough out, the formula it needs to sit. They roll it down to about 3 millimeters. Mm-hmm. Then they have to let it sit for 24 hours. And then they roll it down to 2 millimeters and they let it sit for another 24 hours. And then they fill it with all kinds of good things. They fill it with pecans, with almonds, with fruit, with cherry, apple. And then they make every month they have new creations. I mean, what a fun job that must be. And then they fold it and roll it and fold it 27 times. And then they bake it. And then they bring this thing in. It's in the shape of an oval. They ship these things all over the world. They are absolutely delicious. So you can only get them in Racine, or at least the best ones come from Racine. And it's something that when you come to Racine, you stop. You go to Philly, you get a cheesesteak, right? You come to Racine, you get a Kringle. That's just the way it is. So O&H has been our partner for before we remodeled, for 20 years. So they, when we expanded and did this recent renovation, we expanded their footprint and we put them smack in the middle of it.
This is probably a stupid question, but did you have one, Darren?
Yes.
Yeah.
So myself and the other visitors, we bought 3 and we took it home, and it was funny because I decided to put it in my luggage at the last moment, not to flatten it. And Michael's correct. When you walk through ORD with Kringles, so many people stop you and say, "Oh my God, I know those. Those are delicious." So, but I did share it, and I was able to take it home, and family enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, it looks like you had a big outdoor seating, which looked both crowded and dreamy. It looked amazing. Is that something new, or the outdoor?
I'm assuming you're talking about the outdoor patio and the bar?
Yeah.
Is that the picture you're looking at with people sitting on swings?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That was something that we thought, well, as we were coming down with the concept, our designer is this incredibly and talented and beautiful woman that I happen to live with, that came up with the concept. This outdoor, what do people want when you're traveling? And granted, we're in Wisconsin and people think that it's cold all the time, but you know what? It's pretty nice here in the fall and the spring and all through summer. And when you're in a vehicle or you're in a truck and you're sitting in it all day or hours on end, or maybe you've got some kids or a pet in the back end, and you just need a little space. You just need a little bit of fresh air. So we thought that this outdoor patio would be fun. And as it turned out, again, the designer had this wonderful idea and vision in her head that, let's just not put outdoor seating out there like every other kind of rooftop place. Let's make it a little more fun. So she put up swings. There's some single person swings and there's some 2-person swings. And then she added some fire pits out there. And as it turned out, we had about 4 positions for people to sit on swings. And in the first few months, if 4 people walked outside, they immediately went to the swings. So it didn't take us long to figure out we needed more. So we doubled up the amount of swings that we put outside. And it makes it enjoyable. You can go out there and relax. You can let your kids run around. If you want to smoke a stogie, you can go out there, have a drink, smoke a stogie, and just put the world on pause for a little while. And it's turned out to be something that has been a favorite of the drivers and as well as the travelers, because it's just something that you don't normally find at a travel center.
There's something so stressful about taking a kid inside when they're on a road trip because they're just so full of energy. So I can see how it'd just be great to be outside, and when you're stopping, just let them run around. So that sounds great. Do locals come into it too, or is it mostly on the road?
Yeah, it's been a nice surprise. We didn't know what to expect. Will the locals come out? Will they not? And what's really interesting is different days and different times, we're seeing a different mix of people.
Yeah.
Just last night, we had Johnson Bank is a regional bank that is headquartered in Racine. They had a retirement party here last night. We had 50 people all in suits, and it was wonderful to see that they're discovering us, and they had a ball. They had a great time. They're going to be back next month with their next event. There's a time when it's more drivers, and then there's times when it's more local. So during, Monday through Thursday, we see a lot more drivers, and it's usually right in the 4 to 8 o'clock time frame. We'll see more drivers. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll see a lot more locals. It's Wisconsin, so there's always a fish fry on a Friday night, especially during Lent. So we've got fish fries going on Fridays, and that's a lot more local. On the weekend, again, it's an interesting mix because the drivers that are here kind of over the weekend, we'll see a handful of those, but the NCAA tournament's going on. There's all kinds of TVs up in the lounge. So there's all kinds of locals watching the game. So it's interesting that there's 3 different kind of groups of buckets of customers. We got the drivers, we've got the locals, and then we've got the regional travelers. And we've turned into a meeting spot for those people to say, hey, I'll meet you there as we go to the Wisconsin Dells, or I'll meet you there as we're headed down towards Chicago. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see all of them and get along. It hasn't been a problem with people crossing over. I actually look at it as a nice way for the public to realize that drivers are just a same group of people like anybody else. Yeah. You got great drivers, you got idiots, but by and large, drivers are pretty generous and good people. I mean, I would say it's amazing, first of all, how well and generous drivers are to our crew. Mm-hmm. They've been excellent tippers, and they just want people to take care of them. And when you do that well, they're more than willing. I mean, they tip better than the locals because they so need somebody to just take care of them when they are stopped for the day. I had someone tell me a long time ago, truck stop is about the only place a driver can go where people want and welcome him or her. I mean, you think about it. They're on the road most of the time, so their old lady or old man is mad at them because they're never home. The DOT is always trying to get into their pockets for something. Their dispatcher's mad because they promised them there yesterday. The customers are upset because, hey, you were supposed to be here yesterday. What's going on? So every group of people that they deal with, they're always not happy with them. When they come to the truck stop, they're loved. They're the king. That this is your domain. This is where we're always happy to see you. And so when, we kind of get that mentality and we provide that kind of love to them, it's well received and they really seem to appreciate it. I can't tell you I can tell you, I guess there's been at least 24 drivers that on Friday afternoons after a long week, we'll sit and we'll have one and we'll talk to the boys and it's so fun and rewarding really to get to hear them say, thank you. Thank you for building this for us. This is nice. This isn't like what we typically get in a truck stop. This is what I've never seen anything like this. Thank you for building this for us. And it's just the most rewarding thing in the world, as an operator to hear somebody say, thank you for doing this for us. And it's nice. It's a good feeling.
That was very well said, Michael. Seriously.
How has COVID changed your operations?
Thankfully, we're at the end of this thing, right? It was a challenge. It was just keeping the doors open was really the biggest struggle. We're a small city on our own of operators here, so it was difficult to keep the doors open. It really was, but we did. We never closed. Everyone pitches in. There were days where I was wiping tables. That's just how it goes. Sometimes instead of having 4 sales associates in the travel store, we only had 2. That just happens. But like we know in our industry, you do what you need to do to keep them rolling. So it was a challenge, but we kept open, and people were respectful of it. We didn't like telling people, please put your mask on. It's difficult, but just like every other industry, we had to get through it. So I'm very grateful to our Lord that this is hopefully on the end of this thing. I don't want to ever have to go through that again.
I got a quick question. What has been the biggest surprise, positive or negative, through the remodel that you've experienced? What was? I mean, you shared a lot of, when you were with me, surprises. But what would you say has been the biggest surprise for you?
Two things really, Darren. The first one is it's been nice to see how well received it's been from the drivers. That's been. I didn't expect to have that many drivers verbalize how much they appreciate it. Usually you do something and, people don't, like everything in life, they don't realize what you did for them. That's one thing. But probably the biggest surprise is how well the controlled parking has turned out. Originally, Amy, we had a lot that we could park 185 trucks in. And every night, 7:30, that lot would be full. But yet when I would walk through the building and walk through the restaurant, and I'd look around and I see maybe 8-10 drivers floating around. It's like, well, I wonder where everybody else is. And the reality was they weren't my customers, because there's, as we all know, a national shortage of parking spaces for drivers, and it's difficult for them to find those open spots. They would get off the road, but they weren't necessarily fueling with me. They weren't necessarily buying food from me. And it irked me, because I can't provide those services for nothing. There's no such thing as a free ride, right? So we had to figure out a way to provide those services to our customers. It really killed me when I would meet up with a driver and say, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Where you been? He says, well, by the time I got through Racine, it was already 9-10 o'clock, and I knew I couldn't get a spot by you, so I kept rolling to the next spot. Mm-hmm. And I said, boy, that just, nothing hurts an operator worse than a customer saying, I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. So we decided that we were going to take the plunge, and it was a difficult decision to make, and I hemmed and hawed about it for years, and I talked to other operators about it, and controlling the parking lot turned out to be the best thing out of all of the things that we did, and the biggest surprise. When I say control it, it's free for our customers. If you buy 75 gallons of fuel, or if you buy $50 of anything inside the store, travel store, restaurants, shop, anything, you're free for 24 hours. Anybody that wants to stop and just eat and go, it's free for 2 hours. But if you're not a customer, you're going to pay $15 for 24 hours worth of parking, because that parking lot isn't free, the maintenance on it isn't free, and the labor isn't free to maintain it. So we started that. We didn't know what the heck to expect. As it turned out, 55% of our customers were validating their parking, so they were there for free because they were our customers. 45% of them willingly paid the $15 a night. We started generating $25,000 a month in parking revenue that we never had before. Now, I'm not a real smart guy, but when I look at an investment that cost me $150 to put in the equipment, and I'm getting $25,000 revenue, and my inside sales and my fuel is going up, and I have customers tell me I can stop now anytime, and I know I'm going to have a spot, I think that makes a little bit of sense. So at first, it was difficult because drivers saw the gates and they said, oh, you're putting in paid parking. I'm not going to deal with paid parking. If you put paid parking, I'll never stop here again. And then it took just a minute to say, okay, let's talk about that, buddy. Do you buy fuel here? Well, yeah. Okay. It's not going to cost you anything. Well, then why do you put... Because I wanted a spot available for you when you wanted to stop at 10 o'clock at night. So it's not going to cost you anything. We're keeping the riffraff out. And that's what it's turned into. The freeloaders don't stop anymore. And a nice little side symptom of controlling your parking lot is your parking lot stays a lot cleaner because people respect the place a little bit more. If it's controlled and they have to pay for it, all of a sudden the parking lot stays a little cleaner than it did when we just had it open. And in a strange way, again, learning from our industry, Jim Getz taught me a long time ago, who was the, former chairperson of our organization, as well as a legendary operator up in Portage, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. He said they value things. Anyone values things as much as it costs them. So they didn't value the parking because it didn't cost them anything. Parking is it's a free thing. It's like air. You have to provide parking. And then when you help them understand, no, the parking is a valuable commodity that costs an operator money. So therefore, if you want to use it, some way, shape, or form, you either need to be a customer or there's a cost to it. Then they start to understand it. And then they start to realize that parking is valuable. And then they start to realize that that's one more value added reason to stop at a place because there's parking available. So it's been the nicest and best surprise that we put in. I didn't realize we could create that kind of revenue that easily. And it's been very, very good.
What any plans for the future? What are you looking at next?
What's next? Start to make some payments to our bank that we can finally make those payments. And the money isn't going out; the money's starting to come back in a little bit. We're kind of there is actually. That's a good question. There's been a few new things. Our marketing department now is just hired on a full-time individual to handle our digital and our social marketing. We're very excited about that. So we know that is important, and technology is there, and there's many ways that drivers communicate with us. So that's something that's new for us. The other thing is that through with food and with our POS in our restaurants, we're trying to find ways for people to order digitally. So whether you're a driver and you're going to order, before you get here and you want to get in and out, you can order online and your food can be ready when you get here. If you're local, we've got curbside pickup. So that making it easy for people to order food has been obviously a trend in the industry, and we're finally able to do that. So we're looking forward to expanding on making it easier to order food from the Blue Badger at the Racine Petro than it ever has been.
All right. Before we let you go, I'm going to ask you my fun, wacky questions.
Can I jump in one real quick?
Okay.
For audiences, I would just tell our listeners is if you want to see fantastic retail theater, you should reach out to Michael and set up an opportunity to come and visit his location. We've got a lot of good merchandisers out there in our industry. But if you really want to see amazing retail theater, that is just stunning with displays, product presentation, departmentalization. I would just say reach out to Michael, set up a time if he's, to host, have him come up and look at his location. They do retail right. It's impressive and it's stunning. And when you walk in, you see the food on the left, you see the Airstream, the atrium, and then you look to the right, you will not think you're in a truck stop. It is beyond impressive. And that's what I'll share my parting words. With that, Amy, your fun questions.
All right. You ready?
Sure.
Okay. What is your go-to on the road snack?
Go-to on a road snack. I got a big sweet tooth. So any kind of, if there's a sign that says fresh pies or homemade pies or local pie or any kind of apple pie, cherry turnover, I'm all in.
Do you prefer to ride or drive?
Oh, I'm too much of a control freak. I have to drive.
Okay. You're stuck at a truck stop in a snowstorm. How do you pass the time?
Talk to the interesting people that you meet inside the truck stop. It's kind of like an airport. You meet people from all over the country. So I'm going to walk around. I'm going to talk to people. If I'm in Wisconsin, I'm going to have if beer is available, I'm going to have a social cocktail with somebody, and we're going to talk about life and learn about each other.
Okay. How do you take your truck stop coffee?
I'm an abnormal person that way. I do not drink coffee, so I start my mornings out with usually grapefruit juice. I don't understand it. I love the smell of it, but I've never acquired a taste for coffee.
Okay. And we'll end with a controversial question. Is it truck stop, travel center, or travel plaza?
Hey, I'm a traditionalist. I mean, Darren and I were born in the green world of stopping centers under the Petro flag. But you know what? I keep things simple. We are a truck stop. I mean, that's what people call us. I'm proud to be a truck stop operator. I'm happy to be part of the change of that perception. Truck stop.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening to today's episode of The Truck Stops Here. You can find us online at www.natso.com/podcast. You can listen to the podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you have any questions or you want to come on the podcast, I hope you'll reach out to me and Darren at editor@natso.com. Thanks, Michael.
Bye, Michael.
The Truck Stops Here was brought to you by Natso, the association representing truck stops and travel centers. Visit natso.com for more information. The Truck Stops Here is produced by Natso in collaboration with Human Factor. Producers are Amy Toner and Darren Schulte.